Hello, so this is part 11 of What Once Was Mine. I'm not exactly sure how much I'll read today, but I'm excited to get into this, and yeah, there's a lot to talk about, so um, let's just get started. Like always, I'll give you a little snippet of where I'm at. I'm at Memorial Sloan Kettering. That is what the chapter is called. I'm on my copy. I'm on page 178, and it starts with, "They're all together," Daniela whispered. Yeah, there's no like chapter numbers for this book, so that's how I have to explain it. But let's just get started and see where this goes. Okay. "They're all together," Daniela whispered, the slightest smile on her face. Her hand slipped from the covers she clutched to rest on the bed itself in a gesture that was far too reminiscent of death on the TV show. But her face was relaxed, and if not exactly healthy looking, then at least free of the pinch look she often got halfway through the chemo. "Yeah," Brendan said quietly. "You can relax now, but trust me, there is trouble just around the corner for our heroes." He pulled the blankets up around her neck. She would be freezing when she woke. He'd ask for another autoclaved blanket the next time the nurse came by. He usually stretched or played on his phone while she slept, texting senseless half conversations with his friends that he could barely finish, randomly suffering on social media. None of it held his attention despite the utter absence of any real distinctions in the tiny room, noises, movements, anything. And despite the obvious similarity of his sister to the fairy tale princess, who slept deeper and longer than they should have, Brendan immediately dismissed the comparison. Daniela wasn't a helpless princess, any more than Rapunzel was. She was a tiny queen fighting for her kingdom, in this case her body. He found himself reaching for the book instead of his phone. Despite all the movie viewings and 2 book reads, he somehow still wasn't sure of some of the characters' names or physical details. Hook Hand was obvious, but what about Attila? How was he going to work Maximus into the story? He flipped through the book, taking notes, until his sister woke again. Okay, so that's the end of that chapter. That was really short. I really like those like tiny chapters that go back to like the central timeline, maybe. I don't know, like the actual real lives of these people. It just like it chops it up pretty good, I think. Um, so okay. The next one is Rapunzel. So nothing new really, and let's get started with the next chapter. I really liked that last one. The next morning, after a surprisingly restful and unhaunted sleep in the barrows, Rapunzel sorted her hair up as best as she could, while Flynn and Gina vigorously discussed possible routes to where the lantern ceremony was held. The epicenter of which was unfortunately right in the front of the castle on the island, which was obviously bad for Flynn. But just as tricky was getting there. The Stabbingtons were now on the warpath for him and Gina. Although the harbor could be easily reached in a day, the final itinerary they chose was circuitous, hidden, and would take at least 2. This worried Rapunzel a little. According to her calculations, You could just have said, Rapunzel thought. According to my calculations is the most, like, nerdy thing you could say. Oh, okay. They would be pushing it very close to arrive in time to see the lanterns. She pulled out her journal. The lights, lanterns, always appear a month and 8 days before the summer solstice, she said, checking her figures and drawings for the 1000th time. May 12th, yeah, Flynn said. My ma took me once when I was younger, Gina said. It was beautiful. Hundreds of the lanterns in the sky, all reflected in the water and everything. We actually had some coin. So my mom let me light one, but she was quiet the whole time, sad, almost as if she knew the baby princess. Your mother sounds wonderful, Rapunzel said. She's fine, I guess. Are they... Okay, maybe I'm overthinking this, but I'm kind of getting the vibe that, like, Gina's supposed to be, like, the Cassandra of this story. So maybe I'm completely overthinking it. But that's at least what I thought. Like, what if Gina is Mother Gothel's daughter, like Cassandra was in the show? I don't know. Maybe it's completely wrong, but that's at least kind of the vibe I'm getting right now. She's fine, I guess, Gina said with a shrug, but also a little smile, like she was secretly proud. She's boring. It's all, Gina, get your clothes off the floor. We don't live in a filthy hovel, just a hovel. Or, Gina, I really need some skullcap. Could you pick me some in the Western Fells? See, that's why I fled the orphanage before I was adopted, Flynn said, with a sigh of contentment. No one ever told me what to do. No mom doing all the mom things like making me wash behind my ears or making a bed or whatever. Nope, I'm free as a bird. Wait, you're an orphan too? Gina asked in surprise. What orphanage? Mother Mary for the blessed little children. You? Same here. Oh my gosh. Like I said, this is like, it reads like a fan fiction that was written by a teenage girl. Like, this could be on Wattpad and no one would take a second look. That like dialogue just seems so fan fiction. Okay, the two adventurers coughed at each other and then began to laugh. Rapunzel watched them with a mixture of amusement and envy. She was the one responsible for bringing these two together and discovering they had shared past, true, but she wished that she had a past that she could share with someone besides Gothel. Hey, Pascal, she could imagine herself saying, remember that time when it was suddenly rained and I forgot to close the shutters? And also, Flynn had escaped the orphanage as a child. Rapunzel hadn't left the tower until her 19th birthday. Had life been so pleasant that she had never even thought of escaping? Of course, there were hours of loneliness and sadness, days sometimes. Even the cheeriest person in the world would eventually be brought low by what was essentially solitary confinement. But when she asked to leave the tower, she asked her mother to go with her. It wasn't really to escape. There hadn't been the thought she wouldn't return to the tower afterward, return to endless hours by herself, painting, cleaning, playing, reading, because she was deserved to stay there. No, she realized, nothing really so noble. It was simply because she didn't know anything else, or any other way to live. The tower was literally her entire world. And here was these two strapping, energetic adventurers who had thought the orphanage was their tower, despite all the other people there, and just assumed that better things lay beyond it. Sorry, Gina said, seeing the faraway look on Rapunzel's face. You had to be there. It was a pit. What do other children do? who don't escape that orphanage or get adopted? Rapunzel asked quickly, wanting to think of something else. Her two new friends shrugged. Get married, I guess, Flynn said. Become nuns? What does this have to do, if anything? Okay, when you're 15, you have to leave one way or the other. You're grown up. They started to make some changes before I left. I remembered the Queen insinuated some sort of improvement program. Better food, more classes, fewer lice. Who cares? Glad I got out. I'm an orphan too, Rapunzel said, trying not to sound desperate. My parents died when I was a baby. Mother Gothel adopted me. An orphan who was kept as a prisoner in her tower with plague signs to keep away? Gina gently teased. Seems like a lot of work. Nah, I bet you're a princess of some sort. Rapunzel stared at her. Then she began gruffling big, hearty barks of laughter. She doesn't sound like one, Flynn observed. She wears a pretty dress like one, Gina pointed out. Your skin is creamy and perfect, Flynn said. I guess. Oh my god. So, are they gonna be able to figure out she's the lost princess? Is that what's happening here? Okay. You have a crown, Gina said. It's not my crown, Rapunzel shouted, still laughing. I grew up in 2 rooms, not a giant castle. I don't have any servants or ladies in waiting, or crowns you didn't steal, Flynn nodded, or a white horse, or velvet capes, or a scepter. You do have magnificent hair, though, Flynn pointed out. I mean, just look at it. It looks fancy and expensive and royal. A normal person, even a lord or lady, couldn't manage locks half as long, even if it ever came in silver, which seems really unlikely. He leaned forward to get a better look, and at first Rapunzel did nothing, suddenly aware of his closeness. Whatever he said about her hair, Flynn's was also clear, healthy, and peachy. He had a little bit of hair on his chin, not a full beard like she had seen in pictures. A tiny feathery thing that she kind of wanted to touch. Ew. His eyes were bigger up close, which was silly now that she thought about it, because of course they would be. Okay, like I said, what's the point of saying that? His eyes are bigger up close would make sense. Like, they really needed a better editor on this book. And then she remembered. She couldn't be normal. Don't touch my hair, she screamed, leaping backward and slapping at him crazily. Whoa, sorry, Your Highness. Okay, they're really going into this. So how are they going to make it a big reveal that she's the lost princess later? Or are they just not going to do that? Or what's the plan? I really don't understand. Flynn said, stepping away. I didn't realize, milady, silver tresses were so delicate. It's not that, Rapunzel said desperately. Please, I'm sorry. It's just that, yeah, she's got a thing about touching her hair, Gina said. Also about killing chickens, just FYI, she had some issues. All right, let's just keep going. Note to self. Ixnay on the air hay. Rapunzel wilted and patted along after them. I don't understand what that means, but okay. But Flynn didn't seem the type to hold a grudge or overthink things. Within a few minutes, he was whistling and humorously trying to trick Rapunzel into telling him where she had hidden the crown and arguing with Gina about their journey. And Rapunzel never stayed blue for long either. What? I guess she's blue. Soon enough. Oh, she's sad. Okay. She was almost skipping behind them, enjoying her adventure. Once again, the northern coast is so cold, hard, and salty. Flynn complained. Let's just sneak through the royal gardens and come at the harbor from inside the island. I thought you said you were trying to avoid the city, Gina said. Yeah, but I like avoiding sea weather too. Absolute nightmare on my skin. Wow, on that note, I need to find a private tree. Oh, okay. Why didn't you go before the adventure? The amount of jokes about these things in this book. We're only 186 pages in, and I swear there's been like 5. Flynn sighed, hands on hips. You are such an amateur. I'll bet you didn't even pack a lunch. Go stuff yourself in a wasp's nest, Gina told him amiably, and disappeared like a shadow in the woods. She has cheese, she shouted behind her. Cheese? Once again, why? What's up with the cheese? Why are we talking about cheese all the time? Flynn asked, raising an eyebrow at Rapunzel. Yes, I do, Rapunzel replied eagerly. And some roasted beans. Hand 'em over. Let's just wander up this way. Give your friend some privacy. Rapunzel was suddenly aware that it was just the two of them. Mother had warned her about situations like this. It was one of the reasons she had lived in the tower. A boy would talk sweetly to her, lean in close, try to grab a kiss, and be killed when Rapunzel panicked and fought back. It would be all her fault. Or was it? He would be killed if Rapunzel didn't fight back. If she just kissed him back and somehow accidentally killed him anyway, it would be all her fault. Or she couldn't remember which scenario her mother had particularly warned her about. Either way, it always ended with the boy's life taken and it being her fault. And that was the point of the lectures. And she was now, in that very scenario, she was alone with a boy. Okay, it's not that deep. He caught her staring at him and gave her a sly look, super impressed with being with a real life criminal, huh? He asked, smiling, with surprisingly nice white teeth. Okay. I'm just super impressed with anyone who can fight and knows these woods and the world so well. I guess Gina does too. Yes, Gina. He frowned. She's kind of a weirdo. Nice weirdo, mind you, but very, very odd. Okay. A flurry of thoughts winged their way through Rapunzel's head like a confused flock of birds on a late summer test flight. She couldn't separate the different feathered things out. There was also puzzled look on Flynn's face. He raised his eyebrows and sort of gazed at her, turning his head so it was a little sideways. His smile was so that his lips stretched wide at the corners but remained partially closed over his teeth. Obviously, it was some sort of expression Gothel didn't make, but that other people commonly used. So she tried to copy him. What are you doing? Flynn asked. I don't know. And it's supposed to be, I don't know, but I don't know. Rapunzel responded, keeping her lips in some half position. At our ooing. What are you doing? Okay, you're kind of a weirdo too. No wonder you two get along so well, Flynn said, shaking his head and dropping the look. Usually the smolder works on all the ladies. Oh, you were trying to. Rapunzel began to giggle. Book number 27 and number 28 were tales of knights and damsels and adventurers, with more than a touch of romance. Flynn looked offended. No, please, try again, Rapunzel begged. Oh, the mood's gone. Forget it, he said, rolling his eyes. But he smiled, a royal smile this time, a natural one. What did you do all day in the tower anyway. I'm surprised you're not stark raving mad by now, she sighed. I have a very strict schedule. 6:30, rise, chores until 8. First read 8 until 8:30. I mean, the first reading of the day, not of a book. I only have 37 books. I've read them all hundreds of times. I keep begging Mother for more, but she can only find 1 or 2 a year. Next is art. Then on Monday and Friday at 10, in preparation for the night's astronomy. On Tuesday and Thursday, it's writing and rehearsing puppet shows. On Wednesday, it's boring you, isn't it? I can tell. No, I don't know what to say, Flynn said softly. He had been staring at her, but it apparently wasn't with impatience. It was something else she couldn't name. And believe you me, I always know what to say. Somehow, you grew up, maintained a crazy amount of self-discipline, and managed to stay sane. I don't know how you're constantly upbeat and cheery, considering the hand life dealt you. You must be a truly amazing person. Rapunzel blinked, unprepared for this response, but there was something so artlessly trustful about his remark that it must have bothered him as well, and he changed the subject before she had the chance to say anything. But then, why do you want to see the lantern so badly? I mean, of all the things you could do out in the wide world once you left, sail a boat, date around, climb a mountain, why that? Rapunzel shrugged and sort of danced with her feet as they continued down the path, and she looked for the right words. I don't know. It's the only thing I ever really, really wanted. To see them. Sorry, my camera's about to die, so I had to change the setting and put it on the charger. But let's get back to this. To see them up close, I could just do that. I could live happily ever after. Really? That's all you ever wanted out of life? Really? But now? She looked around at the woods, the same woods she had seen from above in her tower. It was different when she were down on the ground, and not just because of the way they looked. Everything was dirtier, smellier, in a good way, realer, utterly different from what she'd thought, and all-consuming. And there was Jaina and Flynn, and the snuggly duckling, and Kavaz, and birds killed by someone else, roasted on a campfire. Nothing she had ever imagined or wished for, but somehow the lanterns were fading in the middle of her mind, overshadowed by these other experiences. How strange. I don't understand. It's the little tiny things, how strange, or they aren't needed. I don't understand why they're there. I feel like it really is hurting the pace of the book. And now, Flynn prodded. I don't know, Rapunzel said honestly. I don't want this part to end. If I see the lanterns, then I will have seen the lanterns, and it will be over, and I'll go home. I really don't think you were going to answer that, Flynn said, shaking his head. You always seem to say exactly what's on your mind, or in your heart. It's new to me. As a daring criminal, lying in sort of par for the course, what do you want most of all? What dream have you had for your whole life? Rapunzel asked curiously. Flynn looked surprised and then trapped, as if the question were a snare. Finally, he grinned, utterly erasing any previous emotion. He waved his hand nonchalantly in the air. I mean, what does any thief wish for? To never have to thief again. Piles and piles of money. But before he had a chance to finish, they rounded a corner and were faced by a trio of men waiting for them, weapons raised. Okay, well, I'm going to end it there because I feel like this has been a long enough video and I want to let this charge or else it's going to die on me. I better stop. But yeah, that's really it. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. I love you, 30,000, and please stay safe. Bye, guys.